Update. A major bank made me wait 7 hours. A banker laughed. Hey, Mr. Low-tier company, you have no balance. The poor don't belong here, just go home. LOL. That's when I made a life-changing decision. Soon after, the bank president spoke to me, his voice shaking. Part 2. I sighed and decided to carefully explain everything from the beginning. I'm the one who's having trouble here, I said. Listen, I came here over 2 hours ago, gave my name, and explained my business at the counter. Isn't it strange that my registration wasn't completed? Is that true? I asked. Which girl registered you at first? I thought it was the lady right in front of me, but it wasn't me. I've never heard of a Jake Harrison before. The woman, who seemed on the verge of being accused, quickly shook her head in denial. Thomas, the assistant branch manager, looked back and forth between the woman and me before raising his voice. All right, ladies, could all the counter staff gather here for a moment? I couldn't help but worry if it was really okay for him to shout like that, but when I looked around, I realized I was the only customer left in the branch. The rest of the bank employees were busy moving about in the back, likely finishing their tasks. It seemed the bank's operating hours had ended while I was arguing at the counter. When Thomas clapped his hands and called out, about 10 young women quickly gathered around. They were all wearing the same uniform and had their long hair tied up. I hate to admit it, but having grown up in a rough and tumble household with two rowdy brothers, I couldn't tell them apart. All right, is the person who registered Jake here? Thomas glanced back at the group of women as he asked, but as expected, no one answered. One woman avoided my gaze after briefly making eye contact, but even looking at her face, I couldn't be sure if she was the one who helped me at the counter earlier. I couldn't just point fingers at her based on her suspicious behavior. So when Thomas turned to me with a question, I couldn't give him a definite answer. Well, Jake, do you remember who you spoke to about your issue? He asked. No, I don't remember her face, I replied. I think it was someone at the counter near the entrance, though. Well, that's not much help, Thomas said. If you really did register, there's no way my highly capable staff would forget. As Thomas dismissed the gathered women, he continued to criticize me relentlessly. Honestly, young people these days complain the moment things don't go their way, and to top it off, coming in with complaints right at closing time, that's just plain obnoxious. I'm not complaining without a reason, I countered. The fact is, your staff forgot to register me. I'm simply asserting my rightful claim, and now I'm being treated like some troublesome customer. It's insulting. Well, either way, the bank is now closed for today, Thomas said. So please leave. If you don't want to wait next time, come in first thing in the morning and make sure to register properly. Oh, well, I heard that loud and clear, I said. I'll be here first thing tomorrow morning, as you've suggested. Make sure my issue is handled properly then. All right, morning, first thing, got it? Thomas replied. I glared at Thomas as I left the branch, the shutters nearly closed behind me. For a moment, I considered canceling the account and switching to another bank, but the thought of my dad held me back, and I decided to stick it out for now. The next day, as I had declared to Thomas, I arrived at the bank first thing in the morning and completed the check-in process. Coincidentally, the woman at the counter who helped me was the same one I had complained to the previous day. When she saw my face again, she tensed up slightly but handled my case politely. After I explained my request again, she looked apologetic and sad. I'm sorry, Jake. That procedure can only be started after 10 a.m.? But yesterday, Thomas told me that coming first thing in the morning would save me the wait, I said. You were there when he said it, weren't you? I sincerely apologize, she replied. Thomas didn't know the specifics of your procedure at the time. I managed to swallow the anger welling up inside me. It's not her fault, I told myself. Getting angry at her won't accomplish anything. I took a deep breath and then spoke to her. I can't wait around for an hour during the busy morning hours. I'll head back to work now and return during my lunch break. Could you please make sure everything is ready for the procedure by then? Yes, of course, she said. We'll be expecting you. Please make sure of it. All right, then, I replied. With that, I left the bank, frustrated, and returned to work. Around lunchtime, I headed back to the branch. The counter area was just as crowded as before, but I headed straight to the woman from the morning. I'm back, I said. Let's proceed with the request I mentioned earlier. Jake, please have a seat and wait for a moment, she replied. When she saw my face, she looked visibly flustered and directed me to the waiting area. Honestly, I was exasperated at the thought of waiting again, but I figured arguing with her wouldn't help. So I sat down quietly, telling myself that I had been persistent enough that morning, and that the responsible staff member was clearly identified this time. Surely the process would be completed quickly, and I'd be back to work in no time. I had placed my faith in the bank getting it right on their third attempt, but even after waiting for a while, there was no sign of my name being called. Worse yet, the woman I had entrusted with the task had disappeared into the back without me noticing. Without her, there was no one I could follow up with. I had no choice but to sit there helplessly as other customers were called up one by one. In the end, it wasn't until 2 hours after I arrived at the branch that I finally heard my name called from the counter. When I glanced at the bank's clock, it was just past 2 p.m. It had been 5 hours since I checked in at 9 a.m. Adding the 2 hours I waited yesterday, I had spent a total of 7 hours waiting, and this was now my third visit to the branch for the same procedure. Cursing the bank silently, swearing I'd never come back, I headed to the counter. But instead of the woman from before, it was Thomas, the assistant branch manager, standing there. Thomas greeted me with a smirk and spoke up. We can't have you cornering our female staff like yesterday, can we? So I'll handle you personally this time. Now, kiddo, why don't you tell me what errand you're running for today? What little chore brought you here? His condescending tone, as if speaking to a child, made my blood boil, but I knew losing my temper would only play into his hands. So I held back my emotions. I've already explained this multiple times, I said. It's about the corporate account for Harrison Electronics. I believe the account is registered under that name. So could you check it for the current representative? Thomas chuckled. A kid running a company? You sure can't judge a book by its cover. All right, kiddo, I'll go check the account details for you. Can you wait here like a good boy? Just hurry up and get it done, I said in a low voice, glaring at him. Thomas chuckled mockingly and disappeared into the back. When he returned, he was holding what looked like the account information and said something shocking. Wow, your company's account is practically empty. What's a broke little company like yours doing here? You're totally out of your league. Why don't you just leave? Thomas burst into laughter, clutching his stomach as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. This is priceless, he continued. You went through all the trouble of setting up a corporate account, but there's barely any money in it. That's beautiful. Oh, don't tell me you've been waiting here for hours for a tiny sum of money? Must be tough scraping by like this. If you apologize for your rude attitude toward me earlier, maybe I'll treat you to a coffee. How about it? He tapped my head with the rolled up papers he was holding, grinning as he spoke. I wasn't there to withdraw any money, I tried to explain, but Thomas interrupted me again. I'm not here today to make a withdrawal, I said. Also, the account is now under the company's name. Sorry, but small businesses like yours won't get approved for a loan. If you want to borrow money, you should try a smaller, less prominent bank instead of a big one like ours. Although, honestly, I doubt any bank would lend to you. Watching Thomas speak so smugly, I felt something snap inside me. This wasn't getting me anywhere. I felt bad for my dad, but I decided it was best to open a new account at another bank. Big banks like this one had never been a good fit for me from the start. As I gave up and stood to leave, the atmosphere in the bank suddenly became tense. It wasn't because there were more customers, it was because someone had just walked in from the back, causing the staff to act strangely. The moment Thomas, who had been smugly lording over me just moments ago, saw this man, he snapped to attention, standing rigidly. Brian, welcome to our branch, Thomas said, hurrying toward the middle-aged man and wringing his hands as he approached. However, the man paid no attention to Thomas and walked straight toward me. His face was as pale as if he had just seen a ghost. When he reached me, his voice trembled as he spoke. Excuse me, but would you happen to be Jake Harrison from Harrison General? Yes, I'm Jake Harrison, the CEO, I replied. Thank you for always supporting my father. The man returned the greeting politely. Meanwhile, Thomas and the other staff around us stood frozen with shocked expressions. It was no surprise they couldn't believe that Brian, the president of the entire bank, would personally speak to a customer like me. What's going on? You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 3.